I'm Elizabeth Spavento. I'm a curator and visual arts programmer here at Space, and helped organize the show, which is really just a combination of symbols and doesn't really have a verbal expression.
We can't even say it.
Well, in some interpretations it might be plus, minus, or positive, negative, or like some sort of symbol for spark or things like that. So I think it's interesting. This is the first time I've had to like talk about the show. So how do you talk about something that doesn't really, that has a name or like has more of an intuitive sense than it does like an actual category or descriptor?
It's like the artist formerly known as Prince.
Exactly. The exhibition, no, I don't know, symbolically known as plus, minus.
Cool.
And I'm Alia, and I'm the artist that was invited also by Elizabeth, who also runs the artist residency here.
So how did you arrive here to the residency?
I applied. I came to it first Friday, about a year ago, or more, a year and a half ago, and I applied, and I don't think I would have been ready then. It's so interesting how things happen for a reason. And Liz contacted me when I was doing this last project, Borderland, and I was traveling, and she said, you know what, I really connected to your work. I'd really like to take this project on, and how do you work? And we had a lot of conversations.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting thing because there really hadn't been anybody at Space that was sort of a dedicated visual arts person for maybe about a year and a half before I took on the position. And so one of my first tasks was to go through all of the open submission applications that we had received over the course of, I don't know, almost a 2-year period.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at, close to 100 different applications, and Alia's was one that I just felt really connected with the subject matter, and just the way that she had been creating images really reminded me in particular of a couple artists on the West Coast that I was familiar with. And so during our initial conversations, there was sort of a little bit of sussing out, and at the time she was traveling and was in Japan, and I want to say...
And then Vietnam.
Vietnam,
So
yeah.
we were also talking across borders. There was this,
Yeah.
It was...
So the whole conversation was kind of like couched in this very international dynamic, and then when you were back, when Alia was back in Farmington, I drove up to do a studio visit with her and actually got to see a lot of the materials that she had collected from the different places, and we just sort of had a frank conversation about like, okay, here's the space, here's what I'm thinking, and then one of the really great advantages or great resources that we have here at Space is the residency room, and so there's 2 aspects of this overall project that the residency accomplishes, and one of them is for artists who are exhibiting like Alia, and then there's a whole other group of artists that are just here for independent practice, so they'll come in for like 2 to 4 weeks and make a body of work and then sort of ship out. And I think one of the luxuries of having an artist in residence who's also exhibiting is like you get to know that person in such a new way. They get to know that space in such a deep way that I think it would be very difficult to accomplish something on this scale of this size without having weeks to really be here and to think about it and to kind of attend events and see how people are using this space and really develop this relationship with it. Often people just fly in for like 5 days to a week to like hang out on the wall and then come back. So, and it's fairly challenging from a curatorial perspective to balance out all the needs that you would have as a visual artist against the needs that you would have for performance, right? So think about, coming to a concert, like it's not going to be fun if all the lights are on, right? But if you're an artist, like you can't really look at your art in the dark. So where does that balance come in, and how do you create this atmosphere? How do you allow people to kind of enter into the work in a very physical way?
Yeah.
And I think, just literally having the luxury of time to be able to work with Alia and develop that idea over the course of, the whole month that she was here is really how it arrived at this moment. I think what the novelty might be just the interaction that artists in residence at Space have with the community. It's so rare, I think, for somebody to come in and to have like an art production and feel really embedded in the surrounding community that it's emerging out of. And so I think that really provides the opportunity to like sink into it in a way.
Yeah. it seems like something that's special about the size of Portland and
Yeah.
spaces now sort of prominence within the arts community. It gives you a lot of power, you know, to access that network. The network's really dense because it's all sort of right here.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's a lot of opportunities. There's not bureaucracy. There's every reason for everyone to say yes.
Right.
Yeah,
to all
definitely.
this.
And not just, you know, and it's not just like, oh, the visual arts program that takes ownership over it. I think that there's a lot of buy-in across all the different things that we do across all staff members, you know. So Mahmoud, Alia's husband, is an amazing musician. He's a master musician, plays 17 different instruments, and he was here for a few weeks of that residency.
Oh, cool.
You know, so it was really nice to see this other way that Alia was working with her partner and them sort of trading off who uses the space. So, you know, you'll be in the middle of a meeting talking about like, okay, well, what are the new marketing materials for this next big event that's coming up? And then you hear like Mahmoud playing upstairs and you're like, okay, yeah. So you have this like little moment of, it bleeds into your everyday experience, and I think that it's a really helpful reminder to say like, this is why we keep doing these kinds of things for those kinds of moments. And you know, I think to be in the arts in a lot of ways, especially these days, is a political act and requires a lot of fortitude and stamina and a lot of justification, you know, like
You have to fight for it a little bit.
exactly. You have to fight for it, and you have to sort of be declarative about why you're doing it, because I think people are always coming at you with that question, well, like, what's the value in it? What is it? What's its purpose, right? And so I think that these programs, like publicly and privately and professionally, all build justification in a certain way that builds its own set of value systems where you can say, like, it's valuable because we're able to produce something of this quality. It's valuable because we're supporting individual artists who are like in their career. It's valuable because the staff gains meaning from what we're doing because we can actually see it take place in front of our eyes. So, you know, I think that as much as it is a really great opportunity and boon for the artists who are there, I think it is just as important for the people who are administering it to really make it a part of that conversation around value.
Mm-hmm.